What's up, Star Chasers? It is your Capitan Rocket Child, and welcome to another drawing video. So, because it's Halloween, I figured I better hurry up and edit this one so I have something unthemed to put out. Now, one of my favorite movies is What We Do in the Shadows, which is a New Zealand mockumentary video following the lives of vampires. And so since then, they've been the What We Do in the Shadows TV series, which is kind of the same thing but set in America instead. And I was watching it and decided I'll do some fan arts of it. So if you haven't seen it, obviously there's going to be spoilers, so hope you don't have a problem with that. Anyway, so for the first drawing I've done, it's of the vampire Naja, and she has a doll which is possessed with the ghost of her human self. So again, this is like very strange, vampire documentary show. And they're on the sofa talking to camera, sort of interview style. So what I did was I took a screenshot of that scene to use as the starting point and just sketched out the positions of where I wanted the characters as well as the sofa. Then I hid that layer and just started working on the developing the sketch a bit more. I didn't want to depend on the original screenshot too much. I didn't want it to be a perfect trace. I just wanted to get the positionings in place as a starting point. You might see me going back between using a blue pencil and a black pencil just because the original screenshot's quite dark. They live in a dark mansion, so if I use too many dark colors, I wouldn't be able to see the lines very well. Afterwards, then I switched over to a line brush to just tidy up my line work. The stage was pretty straightforward. It was just following the shapes that I put down from the original sketch, and then adding a bit more detail, such as it looks like a fox skin rug. So instead of using a straight lines, I was using short little brush strokes to get that fuzzy texture. And as for the windows, I wasn't going for anything perfectly straight, seeing as it's just going to be blurred in the background. After that, I put down some base colors. I used the screenshot as a guidance point, but also eyeballed it a little bit. Because these vampires, they can't go out in the sun, they have newspaper blocking out the windows, so I put some newspaper texture and tinted the glass as if there's light outside. Then afterwards, adding different textures again for the pillowcases, but then coloring in using shading techniques. So for some of the soft furnishings like the sofa and the curtain, I used a bit of a softer brush, as well as for the fabric, and in other areas I used a harder, more cartoony cell shading style. I really enjoyed actually working on the detail on the dress. It looks a bit regal, going through and adding some of those folds and textures. It was a bit of a challenge because the original palette is quite dark, and I didn't want to lose a lot of the detail just because the vampires and they're sitting in the dark house. I still wanted to make it look kind of nice and cool, so going in and adding different accents, I guess, such as vignetting the outside of the frame, warming up everything in the scene, really exaggerating the candlelight, and then turning it into, I guess, a screenshot by adding some text and some grain as if to emulate the TV static and such. So there is the final shot with Naja, and her ghost, her human ghost self trapped in a doll. These stories are actually so funny, and they're quite strange because the vampires have been vampires for so many years, maybe hundreds of years, that they have no no human social skills. So it's really quite really funny. Now I did a second picture. Here we have the vampire familiar Guillermo and the vampire Laszlo. And what happened was Guillermo got himself turned into a vampire by another vampire, which is taboo, I guess, in their coven. And so he has to keep it a secret, but also his transformation is having weird side effects. So in this scene, he's kind of like, oh, I just might have a flare-up or something. And Laszlo, looks at the cameras like, are you guys seeing this? So again, starting off with that original screenshot just to get the positioning right. Because of the angles, I like to add in some guidance lines for the anatomy to make sure I've got the right starting point. And then going in and adding some detail. Again, I'm hiding the original screenshot because I don't want to rely too heavily on the original scene as if I'm tracing. I just want to use it as inspiration, so that way I can add my own flair, make it a bit more cartoony and exaggerate some bits. So for example, Laszlo has his science gear on and his headbands squishing his head. So I have his puffy hair a bit exaggerated coming out top. Guillermo's looking as though, oh, it's no big deal, whereas Laszlo is looking towards the camera quite with the expression of, yeah, are you guys seeing this, with his little wings poking out the back. So I thought that was quite cute. So in this show, a lot of details put on the characters, so I didn't put as much attention into the background since I was going to blur it out. So the window panels, they're not straight, but I find that's okay. I put some floral texture to be an old wallpaper and just blurred everything so we get the focus on the characters. And just like before, I'm using a mix of some harder cell shading, say for the hair and some of the skin, and then some of the softer shading for the folds in the fabric. I wanted it that you could still recognize it as a scene from the show, but also that it stands out in its own way, kind of like as a cartoon version. And towards the end, again, I'm just adding some I don't know, some noise and a bit of camera blur, again copying that TV static effect, and then adding some subtitles over the top, give it that screenshot look. And here we have the final result. Yeah, every once in a while I like doing a screenshot artwork, since sometimes I may not have the inspiration to come up with my own artwork, but I want to practice my skills. So a screenshot's kind of a good way to work, because you might have a show you really like, or in this case the color palettes are really quite clever, as well as the lighting. So for example, in this scene you've got that greenish background, but you've got that warmer orange tones, and in the nausea scene you've got those burgundy reds with the yellows. So you might find that you're working with color palettes you don't normally use on a normal basis. So yeah. Let me know if you like what we do in the shadows, and perhaps what's your favorite scene, or if you like artwork as well and you want to try doing your own screenshot art as well. So thanks everyone, I'll see you later. Bye.